What is going on, everybody? So, if you saw recently, I released a video talking about some of my favorite movies directed by women this decade because March is Women's History Month. And I think it is so incredibly important to highlight the achievements of women in the film industry, especially since I spend so much time talking about movies. And I thought today what would be fun to kind of accompany that video that I just made is to talk about some of my favorite performances from women this decade. I talked all about directors. Obviously, as someone who loves filmmaking, I pay very close attention to directors' filmographies, but I don't always take the time to make videos highlighting the achievements of actors and actresses. So today I'm going to talk about some of my favorite performances in movies this decade from some different actresses, and I'm really looking forward to discuss that with you today. So first up is going to be Jessie Buckley's performance in Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things. This is one of my favorite films of the decade so far. It was my favorite film of 2020, and Jessie Buckley's performance is a big part of that. I think her character is so mysterious and engaging. I think the way that she delivers dialogue in this movie, especially in some of her very lengthy monologues, it's just incredible to watch her totally and completely give herself over to this performance. The movie obviously highlights ideas of depression and suicidal ideation in a way that moved me very much when I watched it. And I think a big part of that is due to just how special her performance is in this movie. If you've never seen it before, one of my favorite films of the decade, one of my favorite films in Charlie Kaufman's filmography, and Jessie Buckley is a large part of that. Up next is Anya Taylor-Joy's performance in the film Emma. This is an incredible period piece drama that is just so much fun. It's hilarious, it's romantic, it's engaging and entertaining, and the large portion of that is due to Anya's phenomenal performance. She is such a charismatic actress that really is such a great facial performer, and what I love about this movie is how much she has to do through her facial expressions. She has some really great moments of dialogue that I was very impressed with her performance, but so much of what I think makes this particular role special for her is like what she is able to do in reactions with her face in this movie. And that's just what truly makes her such a special actress, is the way she's able to adapt to specific situations and bring so much distinct and unique personality to every role that she takes on. This is one of those movies I feel like I don't hear talked about quite a bit, and it's just such a fun movie that's so easy to just sit down and enjoy. And it's one I always look forward to revisiting because of Anya's really stellar performance. Up next is Alana Haim's performance in Licorice Pizza. I am a huge fan of hers, obviously, for her music career, and when she was cast in this movie, I was really looking forward to see what she would bring to the table, and I think she brings so much life and charisma into this movie. I absolutely adored this thing when I watched it the first time. And I think Paul Thomas Anderson explores some really interesting ideas here, looking at this person who every man in her life takes advantage of her in one way or another, whether that just be of her time. They just don't see her as an equal, even though it's shown very early on she's incredibly smart, she's very independent, she can do a lot with her life, but she doesn't meet anyone that respects her for that. And so she meets this kid who is seemingly just like very charming and outspoken. And she's like, he's a freaking kid. Like, what am I going to get out of spending time with him? But through spending time with him, she learns so much about herself and about what her self worth is and what her value should be in her life, despite the way that other men throughout her life have treated her. And I think it's always interesting to watch movies when you get people from different age groups or backgrounds or things of that nature, where they can learn a lesson for someone from someone who has different life experience than them. And that's what I really took away from this movie, is just like, you can get so much from another person because they haven't experienced life in the same way that you have. And this movie, it's got a lot of the things that I just love about PTA's work. But Alana Haim's performance, she is so funny in this movie, and she really commands the screen every time that she's on it. I really can't wait to see if she acts more in the future, because she is incredibly talented. Up next is Kristen Stewart's performance in the film Spencer, where she plays Princess Diana. This is one of the most emotionally gripping movies that I've ever seen, and it's one of my favorite biopics that I've ever watched. I complain about biopics a lot because I feel like whenever directors try to take on someone's life, they struggle with conveying it in a way that like showcases who they are as a person without it just feeling like, jumping from place to place to place. And what I like so much about this movie, it takes place over a very short time period, and the film is so much more about Princess Diana wanting to be a mother and less of this figure in society, and the internal struggle that she has about just wanting to be a great mother to her children and not some kind of celebrity. And I think there's something so poignant in that and so well done. There are so many incredibly beautiful moments of cinematography in this. The score from Johnny Greenwood is one of my favorites of all time. I listen to it on a very regular basis, and it's just a truly remarkable, nuanced performance from Kristen Stewart that showcases how she's grown as an actress throughout her career. I always look forward to whatever she's going to do next. Up next is Renati Rencev's performance in The Worst Person in the World. This movie was absolutely incredible. I feel like it is so resonant with young people who are like in their early 20s, pushing their late 20s, that don't feel like they've done something with their life yet. And I feel like so many people have experienced these exact feelings in one way or another. And I think the way Joachim Trier examines it is so authentic to the lived experience, because just because you haven't done exactly what you wanted in a specific moment in time doesn't mean you can't do it. I've seen so many actors and performers who have gotten into this career later in life that try to tell people like, hey, just because you're not in the industry at 18 doesn't mean you can't do it. And I think that's true in so many different career fields and so many things that people yearn to do with their lives. And this movie speaks volumes to that experience. And I think seeing it through Renati Rencev's character's eyes really is what makes the movie so incredibly special. I love her performance in this movie. I think that it is just so incredibly captivating. I think about this movie all the time, and I always look forward to revisiting it. Up next is Mia Goth's performance in the film Pearl. I have loved her throughout the entire Ty West trilogy, but I thought her role in Pearl was one of my favorite performances I've seen in a movie in a long time. She is unhinged, over the top, funny, charming. You just could never guess what was going to happen in the next moment in this movie. I love that Ty West was able to craft this trilogy of three films that feel so incredibly different than one another, but somehow seamlessly connect in a way that makes them very easy to watch back to back to back. And this movie is just a ton of fun. I love that it's kind of paying homage to a different age in Hollywood. It's very bright and vibrant in its color palette. It's also incredibly violent, which is something I like about Ty West's movies. And Mia Goth really is a star. She is truly an incredible actress. I always will seek out movies that she is in, and this is one of my favorite performances that she has ever given as an actress. Up next is going to be Emma Stone's performance in Poor Things. This is truly one of the most transformative performances that I've ever seen in a movie. This was my favorite film of 2023. I think the film examines a lot of really interesting ideas and subject matter in the relation of science to morality, and also like a woman's sexual empowerment and like being treated differently if she's open to sex, and like the way women are constantly treated because of their sexual preferences. It just hits a lot of really incredible moments in this that I think are very important to talk about. And I think Emma Stone's performance adds to all of those things thematically. I love how her character has to literally transform throughout the runtime of the film. And I think because of her amazing performance, the movie is as effective as it is. She is one of my favorite working actresses right now. I always look forward to whatever she's going to do next. And this is one of my favorite films of the decade. Up next is Greta Lee's performance in the film Past Lives. I actually talked about this movie in my last video with my favorite women directors of the decade so far, but her performance is a large part of why I love this movie so much. I feel like for a movie that's capturing the passage of time in such a real way, you can truly see the lived emotion on her face in every single scene. I just think that she is living and breathing this character in a way that comes across so authentic and so realistic. And I was completely and totally immersed to the screen whenever she was delivering dialogue or whenever she was in a specific moment, because of how she carried this film from start to finish. I just seeing this experience through her eyes and like loving this person, leaving them, meeting someone else, that person coming back into their lives, being uncertain as to what to do in those situations. Like, it's an experience that I think a lot of people can understand, and she brings it to life in a very relatable way. Truly a remarkable performance, and I always look forward to seeing whenever she pops up in any movie. Up next is Juliette Binoche's performance in the film The Taste of Things. This is a movie that I don't think gets talked about enough, and her performance is truly remarkable in this film. It is about a husband and wife couple that the wife loves to cook. She spends all of her time cooking. They're constantly inviting friends over and hosting parties, and the film is about their experience as a couple together in this very specific time period. And the film is very food centric. Art form of creating these meals is tied into the beauty of their relationship, and the movie would not work as well if it wasn't for her truly remarkable performance. As someone who went to school initially, because of my love for food, I still love to cook. This is a movie that just really impacted me in a very visceral way. And I think about it nonstop. I think about her performance nonstop. And if you haven't seen this movie and you love romance films or you love period pieces, it's one of the best romance period pieces to come out this decade. Up next is Divine Joy Randolph's performance in the film The Holdovers. One of, if not my favorite performance of the decade so far. This is one of my favorite movies of the decade so far. And I am so glad that she won the Academy Award for this because she was truly remarkable in every sense of the word. Her character suffers a loss of her child. She works at this school as a cook, and she essentially worked at the school in order to get her son an education. And after he passes away, she's kind of like, what am I supposed to do now? I don't really want to leave here because he's all that I know, and I don't want to lose him. And I think that raw emotion comes through in every single moment of her performance. Not only does she give a great dramatic performance, she's also very funny, and she's incredibly charming and just a very talented actress who I really look forward to seeing in more movies in the future. She's just really incredible in this, and I'm so glad she won the Oscar for it because it's one of my favorite performances of the entire decade. Up next is Zendaya's performance in the film Challengers. I loved her performance in this. This might be my favorite performance of Zendaya's in her entire career. She gives everything to this role. She is fierce and strong-willed and independent and truly just badass in this movie. There are so many scenes that she just commanded the screen with two other very incredible performances in this, but she was constantly stealing the show, in my opinion. Just a very remarkable performance. It's a Guadagnino film, so it's electric, it's exciting, it's fun, it's sexy, it's thrilling. It's truly an underappreciated film for just coming out last year. I feel like film lovers really enjoyed it, but as far as like the general public, I didn't hear this talked about quite enough. And I wish that it would have been because not only is it a great movie, but Zendaya's performance alone is worth watching it for. Next is Nell Tiger Free's performance in The First Omen. This movie is incredible, and her performance is a big part of it. There's a scene in this movie that really sort of captured the essence of Isabella Gianni's performance in Possession. But aside from that scene in particular, she is just commanding of the screen in this. She gives such an amazing bodily performance. It's truly horrifying. It's captivating. It's enthralling. It's realistic. It's just an incredible horror movie with an incredible lead performance. I recommend this movie to anyone who is a horror fan. Up next, and you might not believe this, but Ariana Grande's performance in Wicked as Galinda. And yes, I am a musical theater kid. I love Wicked. I've seen it like 5 times, and I think she does this role such due diligence, but also in a way that she brings her own unique spark to the role. She captures the mannerisms and the bodily movements of the character so well, but obviously she's also just an incredibly talented singer. So anytime she performed a musical number, I was completely and totally hooked on the screen. And so much of why I appreciated this movie, and don't get me wrong, Cynthia Erivo is also incredible, and I think their chemistry is really great, but she nailed this role to a T, just absolutely brilliant. I think she was snubbed of the Academy Award. I do not think Zoe Saldana should have won that award for this for Amelia Perez, just a complete disgrace of a movie. Hated that movie. And despite any flaws that I think people have with this film, you cannot deny just how amazing Ariana Grande's performance was. One of my favorite performances of the decade so far, and I cannot wait to see what she brings to the table in part two. Up next is Mikey Madison's performance in Anora. No surprise here, she won Best Actress for this movie, and she should have. She was truly remarkable, transformative. The accent that she did, the dance numbers she did in this movie, the commitment to her dialogue and the inflection in her dialogue. There's just so many things to love about Mikey in this movie, and I've loved to see her growth as an actress and to see the different kinds of roles that she's taken on to get her to the point where now she is an Oscar-winning actress. And I really look forward to see what she does in the future post this performance. But this is truly like a showstopper, an incredible movie that I won't stop thinking about anytime soon. And then last on the list is Lily Rose Depp's performance in Nosferatu. My biggest upset for the Oscars is that she was not nominated for an Academy Award for the performance in this movie. Truly exceptional in every single way, transformative. The bodily performance alone is one of the best things that I've seen in a movie in quite some time. Just the way that she truly becomes overwhelmed with possession in this, like, remarkable. I cannot commend her enough for just what she did in this performance to give herself over to this role. It's Robert Eggers. He's like my favorite director working in Hollywood, so it's a brilliant film, but it's worth watching solely for Lily Rose Depp's performance alone. So what are some of your favorite performances from actresses this decade? Let me know in the comments. These are just some of mine. I could have made a list like 5 times as long, but I didn't want to keep you here all day. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and I look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.